DATV, and the Greater Dayton Area League of Women Voters present Meet the Candidates, your chance to learn about the candidates running for office in the November election.
Hello, I'm Diane Herman, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area, and I'm here today with the candidates who are running for Huber Heights Mayor. Those candidates in alphabetical order are Jeffrey Gore and Glenn T. Otto. And we're going to start our interviews by giving the candidates 1 minute to tell us about themselves and why they want to serve in the position of Huber Heights Mayor. And so we'll begin with Mr. Gore.
Yes, thank you, Diane, and thank you to the League of Women Voters once again for bringing us together to be able to voice our ideas and where we would like to take the city. So thank you. My name is Jeff Gore. I'm currently the mayor of Huber Heights. And, I'm a long-term resident of Huber Heights. My parents moved here a long time ago. I'm a graduate and alumni of Wayne High School. This city means the world to me. And I want to do everything that I can to help continue the progress that we've shown over the last 4 years. So I'm currently a teacher at the high school, and I teach government and I teach world history, and so in the social studies department, and have a pretty good pulse on the students and families of the residents of Huber Heights and what's important to them. And I look to continue the success as the mayor for the next 4 years that we've had over the last 4 years. So thank you again for this opportunity. Appreciate it very much.
And Mr. Otto, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve in the position of Huber Heights Mayor.
Well, thank you, Diane, very much for having us today. We really appreciate everything you do. My name is Glenn Otto. I have served as a council member on Huber Heights City Council since 2016. I'm in my second term. I've lived here since 1994. My wife was a military transplant. I grew up in Beaver Creek, and we both served in the military, as do two of our three sons. We've really enjoyed our lives here in Huber Heights. And before coming on council, I spent most of my time in Huber, my wife and I both, doing a lot of volunteering within the community, serving in various organizations. I spent a lot of time coaching in multiple youth sports organizations. Additionally, I served the city on the Board of Zoning Appeals and twice on the Ordinance Review Commission. I'm currently in my second time doing that. It's been a pleasure for me to serve Huber Heights, and I look forward to reaching out to residents and rebuilding Huber Heights to bringing back a little bit more. My apologies. I am stumbling a bit, but excuse me. Anyway, I'll just leave it there for now. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds fine. So I'm going to ask each of you the same questions, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer and respond to those questions. And then I'll move to the next candidate and also give that person 2 minutes to respond also. So we have 3 questions to ask you, and I'll start, Mr. Gore, with you starting first with our first question. What should be the priorities for spending share of the American Recovery Fund?
So in Huber Heights, that's certainly our concern, Huber Heights. And we have actually passed some legislation on those recovery fund dollars to expand our infrastructure on the eastern border, on the eastern edge of our city. So we have part of what Huber Heights is the northeastern section of the intersection of Interstate 70 and Route 4. And we are now going to extend our water and sewer infrastructure from that area all the way down Route 4 and tie into the Fairborn wastewater plant. So I think a lot of people understand there's lots of area and lots of room for growth on the eastern edge of our city. And it's really important that in order for us to be able to attract commerce and industry and business to come grow in Huber Heights, we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure there that can support that. So again, it was probably maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, we had the opportunity as a council to discuss that. and to talk about how we could advance it and improve that infrastructure to account for that growth. And it has been decided or has been talked about to actually use $4 million of our ARPA funds to be able to do that. It's about a $6 million project. And then we have some money in our water and sewer fund to be able to subsidize the rest of that. But I think, for us being able to expand our infrastructure from a water and sewer perspective, that will help increase our industry and economic growth on the eastern border, on the eastern edge. That's extremely important for us because we do have room to grow. And we know that people are interested in that particular piece of property there. So that portion of the money and for our ARPA funds, that's what we've decided to use that money for. So, of course, I believe that's a very, very good and important use of that money. So thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Otto, what should be the priorities for spending Dayton's, or Huber Heights, I should say, share of the American Recovery Fund?
Diane, this is one area where I would agree with Mayor Gore. I believe that infrastructure is the primary concern here in Huber Heights. We have a very aged infrastructure. We have experienced many water line breaks, water main breaks in recent years that we've been putting a lot of money into. Additionally, we find ourselves with an increasingly growing population, which results in a lot of traffic issues as well. I think we need to put that money and focus it towards rebuilding our current infrastructure and upgrading our current infrastructure so that we can handle this additional load that we've picked up over the years. Additionally, if we are to continue growing, we're going to need that as well. I really can't speak to anything outside of those because I believe that truly is the most important thing here in Huber Heights. As I said, we put a lot of money into infrastructure recently with our water softening project. We invested quite a bit of money there. I think that's been extremely positive for the residents of Huber, greatly appreciated, and it certainly helped. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we take care of the rest of that infrastructure as well. Again, and I know it's not uncommon. This is true throughout the country. Infrastructure. I was a member of the National League of Cities Transportation Infrastructure Services Committee and served as their vice chair for a year as well. And again, that's always been the clarion call from communities around this country. And I think that's extremely true when it comes to our city. We have a lot of infrastructure that was put in the 50s and 60s. And it has reached its date where it needs to be replaced, repaired, and upgraded. So again, I can't disagree with the need for infrastructure services. That is without a doubt our greatest need right now. Thank you.
Sure. And to you, Mr. Otto, first, the second question. Mm-hmm. The pandemic has brought new awareness of the social, economic, and health inequities in our community. Mm-hmm. What steps will you take to address these disparities?
Well, I would say that, first of all, we need to figure out where the disparities lie within our community specifically, because we're not the same as every other community. We all have our own different needs and our own different, we'll call them hurdles that we're going to have to cross. And I think what we're going to have to do with that, we do have our Culture and Diversity Citizens Action Committee that I know is currently developing different studies and looking to the community to get input on things of this nature. I'm looking forward to what they bring back to us and let us know that we need to work on. Once we get that information, we can see where the city can jump in and help out with those things once identified. But additionally, we're going to have to walk hand in hand with our local nonprofit organizations and businesses as well to handle those needs. But until we figure out exactly what those are, we're gonna have to wait for that information. So I do look forward to what our committee is working on. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring back to us and how we can help the parts of our community that really need that help.
Okay, and to you, Mr. Gore, the same question. The pandemic has brought new awareness of the social, economic, and health inequities in our community. What steps will you take to address these disparities?
So I think education is always the key. Being in education myself, I understand that the right information given to the right people at the right time are extremely critical in how we move forward, especially in a situation like we are experiencing now with this pandemic. And I think the issue that I've seen that we've had as not just a community in Huber Heights, but throughout the state and throughout the nation is the reporting of the data. And it seems to me that the reporting of the data is what has gotten so many people confused and not really understanding what's happening, because somehow this was turned into a political process. We've taken a pandemic and it's been politicized. And certain people believed the data that was coming out from national government agencies, from different health agencies, the Montgomery County Health Department, our State Department of Health. And then we had other groups of people who didn't believe the data and didn't trust the data. So I think that that's really been a big divide for a lot of us, is being able to have data at our fingertips that we all trust, that we all believe in. Because until we know what's really happening, it's really hard to make decisions with information that we don't know how credible that information is. I do think that our local businesses are getting a lot of the brunt of the issues that are happening. We have, businesses are still requiring masking and things like that for their employees to make residents and patrons feel safe when they go into those businesses. We have issues right here in Huber Heights with our own school district. Our schools have now required mask mandates along with several other different school districts. There are lots of people who are for that. Lots of people are against it. And, we are in a process of discovering and finding out what our own data is here locally. So I think we have to do that. We got to see how it's affecting us here in Huber Heights before we can really make decisions on how to move forward. But once we have the information, the data, I will support our city, our staff, our boards, commissions, and our businesses to be able to do whatever it is that we can do to make sure people remain safe in our city.
Okay, and to you, Mr. Gore, the third question to start with. What is the most pressing fiscal financial issue facing the city of Huber Heights?
Well, it's a great question, but it's a tough question to answer because we've had some very, very tremendous successes over the past 4 years. So, we have increased our general fund number from $9 to about $16 million over the last 4 years. The cash position of our city right now, we have about $67 million in cash in the bank. That's the best fiscal position that the city has really ever been in the history of the city. So I think we know that we have some needs we have to address. We have grown tremendously in these last 4 years. So clearly we have some infrastructure needs that we need to address, but we have the money to be able to address those. We are outgrowing our resources in terms of our public works department. We have, our streets department and things like that. We know they need new facilities in order to hire new people. I had a conversation with our public works manager, and he said, Mayor, if I could hire 5 or 6 new people right now, that'd be fantastic, but I'm not sure I have a place to put them. So we know we have to expand our public works department so we can, our public works facilities, so we can actually hire the right amount of people that we need to be able to take care of all the expansion that's happening. So I think we're going to have a need for extra police officers, for a traffic control unit, because as we're growing, we have more people who are maybe not obeying the law and speeding, and we address that in the traffic town hall that we had. So we have issues that are addressing us or that are that we need to address, but they're not financial issues. We have the funds and the resources that we need to address the issues that we have. Now it's just the process of getting those requests from our staff, getting them before council, and getting council approval to be able to appropriate the funds that we do have to be able to take care of those, issues and give our people the resources that they truly need to be successful, so they can continue giving the services to the residents of Huber Heights that they've come to deserve and expect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Otto, the same question. What is the most pressing fiscal financial issue facing the city of Huber Heights?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Gore. I don't think we are in a position where we are fiscally in trouble. I believe future management is going to be what we're going to have to look at. And I also agree that we're going to have to put a lot of our resources and funding into our infrastructure, as already mentioned. And I don't want to sound like I'm rolling off of the same things as Mr. Gore, but I also believe that we need to bolster a lot of our departments within the city. Estate, our public works department has been running thin for years. They could certainly use some help with facilities and personnel. I know that we need personnel within our parks department. Our parks department is essentially made up of one individual. And although he does an amazing job, we have a lot of acreage when it comes to our park systems, and we have a lot of parks in Huber Heights. So we have over the years looked into further developing those parks, and we've added things in along the lines of ADA accessible playground equipment and things of that nature. I think we're going to have to continue to focus on how we can continue to build those things that are going to better our city versus making it bigger. We got to pull our focus inward and figure out how to utilize those cash funds in a manner that gets the most accomplished that we can for as few dollars possible. I certainly don't want to see us find ourselves in a position years from now where we believed that we had plenty of money in the bank and nothing to worry about, and suddenly we're concerned because those funds have run low. So again, I don't see any big fiscal issues. The biggest thing is going to be trying to recognize where it's needed most to serve our residents and applying funding to those particular areas that will serve our current population.
Okay, thank you. So in closing, we'd like to provide each of you with a minute for a closing statement. And we'll begin with you, Mr. Otto.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, Diane, in closing, I would like to say that just speaking to the residents, I think that one of the primary differences in my mind between myself and Mr. Gore is that I am more focused on looking inward on our city and trying to rebuild and revitalize the central part of our community to create a better community for those who currently live here. I feel that there's been more focus recently on expansion and growth of our community. And though those numbers sound great on paper and everybody likes to say, look at how we're growing, we need to do that responsibly and understand that if we don't take care of what we currently have right now, it's going to make it extremely difficult to take care of those new things that are coming and new people who are coming into our community. So I certainly am hoping that I get plenty of support in this election. I want to thank you guys for your time and for allowing us to get out here and provide our input. And thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Gore, your closing statement.
Oh, yeah. So I think it would be a little unfair for Mr. Otto to make it appear that I don't support taking care of the infrastructure that we have. You know, as the mayor, I kind of control the agendas, but I also, the mayor does not vote on these things, and anything that council brings to me in terms of infrastructure spending to take care of our city, I certainly am going to support and have supported in the past. So yes, that is absolutely true that I do support infrastructure and taking care of what we have. But we do also need to grow. So I just want to point out that 4 years ago, before I became the mayor, there was a narrative in this city that we were broke, people didn't want to move here, that we had no economic growth, we had no jobs. But, you know, I'll point out again what I just talked about before. $9 million to $16 million growth in our general fund. Cash position of from $45 million to about $67 million. We have grown. We've changed the narrative, and Huber Heights is now a place that people want to move to. It's not a place that they want to move from the stagnant growth that we had from the previous administration and the previous council into what we've had over these last 4 years. I want to continue the smart progress that we've done. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you both for your participation today, and I wish you good luck in your campaigns.
Thank you so much.
The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run on issues in terms of an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. The annual Voters Guide, for which we are very well known, will be distributed mid-October in the Dayton Daily News, AIM Media Suburban Newspapers, La Vanguardia, and at local libraries, schools, and businesses. Early voting for the upcoming election begins October 5th at your Board of Elections, or you can request an absentee ballot. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters and helps make our democracy work and be stronger.